Oh yeah, what's up? It's iLL.Gates. Welcome to the studio. I'm going to show you today why I don't need synthesizers anymore. What? But you're surrounded by synthesizers. You obviously love them. Yes, I do love them. I love the sound of them. I love touching them. But what I don't love about synthesizers is that sometimes using gear can really slow down your workflow. I want to have the sound of all my synths at my fingertips when I'm on a plane, when I'm on the road, when I'm at one of my buddies' houses, and when I'm operating a session. I don't want my computer to slow down or have tons of latency. A lot of the best plugins will use like your whole processor just to do basic stuff. So I figured out a very simple workaround that has become such a staple of my workflow that I need to share this with you. I'm going to be doing a workshop really soon called the 80/20 of sound design. It's next week if you're watching this when it came out. And if you're watching this after it came out, you can go check it out at producerdojo.com. This workshop is all about how to get over the hump, get up and running, and get music done. How to stop being afraid of sound design and make it a fun part of your workflow. So let's get into it. All right, so what I've done here, I'm going to look up 128 hardware oscillators and go to my search results, and you can see here I've made this Ableton device group, and in this Ableton device group is simply a sampler. And this sampler has 128 oscillators that I've recorded from all of my hardware synths. It has sine waves from my Oberheim. It has sine waves from one of my favorite analog synths, from my SH-101, etc. Then it goes up through different saws and folded saws into squares, into pulse width modulation, into Reese's, different oscillators from my Mutable Instruments Plats, from my Lequelic Iteritas by Noise Engineering, and then wave folder sounds, frequency shifted sounds, a selection of white noise, a bunch of different harmonic and chord waveforms, and you can select them all with a knob. And by doing this, I get the sound of my hardware synths wherever I go, and I am able to design any sort of a sound very quickly because the simpler and the sampler in Ableton have some really advanced features. The envelopes, for example, have all kinds of stages and curves and stuff that you can use. There's also this initial, which is really, really useful. Sometimes like I'll put the initial up and have an attack and make the envelope stay and then drop, kind of like a hold envelope. By layering up these sounds inside the sampler or layers of samplers, I can usually make anything that I want. So let's start by just showing you what you can do with a sine wave. Sine waves are pretty boring, right? Well, not really. Sine waves can do a lot of things. They're a pure tone. They're really good for driving sub bass. And when you add things to them, for example, the shaper in the sampler, you can generate higher harmonics. And the sampler, the Ableton sampler, also has this pitch/FM area where you can add frequency modulation and create some of the wubs that you know and love. Check it out. And if I were to take this envelope here and put it onto loop mode, I can create an LFO-like cycle that I can use to make really sweet wubs. Check it out. Combine that with the time parameter on the Ableton sampler, and you can essentially scrub the LFO time. Really sick. I love it. So I use this a lot to make a lot of my sounds. Sometimes if I want more highs, I'll change the chorus up and like put it up to like, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10. And if I want to have a sound where the LFO is not just doing the oscillator, but also doing the volume, I can go over here to the modulation tab, turn on the auxiliary oscillator, tell it to do the volume of the FM oscillator, as well as the overall volume of the sound. And then if I set it again to like a looping mode here, wait, I think I got to turn this off of loop. Yep. There we go. You can get a really nice tone out of it. And when you push something like that into a clipper, for example, the one found in the glue compressor, actually, I'm going to turn the overall volume down here so I don't blow your ears out. When I push it up into clipping and I see this clip light go on, see, I've got the range down, so I'm not doing any compression. And then if I push this up into the clipping, you'll see that the volume envelope makes a big difference in the way the clipping sounds. And then once you have your nice wub or whatever, you can change the sample selector position and try it with different waveforms. It often sounds best with sines or triangles though. And usually I'll put the chorus down to like 1 or 2 for these sorts of sounds. So I'll make pads, I'll make all kinds of different stuff out of these. Like, let's see, let's go to 128 oscillators. Yeah, here's another version of the same sampler instrument, but I've layered up many instances of the samples in a 5-finger pan. You know, if I go here, I can see that these ones are 25 left, these ones are 25 right, these ones here are 50% right, these ones here are 50% left, and it makes like a 5-finger pan that gives you a thick unison sound without actually using like one of the kind of fake unisons that you get in a lot of synths and samplers. So here I'm modulating the sample selector using a square wave, which is really slow but re-triggers, and that makes it so that I get a different oscillator each time I press the note. Right? If I take that off, then I can get all the same oscillator, and when I hold it down, I'll get nice stereo chords. Again, I gotta turn it down though. Right, and I've made tons and tons of sounds out of these hardware waveforms, and then I'll just keep saving patches and saving patches. Like here's a pretty good one. This is a bass patch from one of my songs. Oh wait, I think I gotta slow down the time parameter here. Oh wait, maybe, yeah, that one probably had some automation. Let's try this one instead. Right, pretty cool. Here's another patch. And you can see there's not really much going on. I've just got the Ableton stock saturator. I've got this transient design plugin to just give it a little more transient. A little bit of EQ, a little bit of OTT. So yeah, you can make pretty much anything you want, anything that you would make with a synthesizer with these hardware waveforms. And another kind of benefit that it has, I'll show you this instrument I've done called Battle of the Subs. And this is an instrument where, like, you know, because a sine wave is not a sine wave, a square wave is not a square wave. They're different. Every instrument that produces them slightly differently. And all these different subs, right, these are all from all of my favorite synthesizers. And I want you to notice something, right? When I get like OTT and I'll go put a triple OTT on this and really blast it to kind of simulate some extreme processing that you might find in a track, right? They all sound the same, but before you put this processing on them, like this sub, like some of them are a little more saturated, but those are all my favorite synthesizers. We got Pigments, Razor, Wavetable, Serum, Operator, Faceplant, and this analog sub that I've made that I recorded through my hardware. But watch what happens to the highs when you put the OTT on them. And now we go to my analog one. You see how the noise that's inherently in any signal that's been recorded through a preamp, that noise comes up and acts like dithering to cover the aliasing that you would normally get from a hardware or from a software synth. See, the software synths have a perfect noise floor. There's nothing at the bottom. It's just the oscillator. And when you pump that up with distortion and compression, a lot of the time, the lack of noise means that all of your processing is revealing this kind of really harsh digital top end. Check it out. So depending on how that synthesizer is making it sound and whether there's a noise floor in there to kind of make it sound analog, like you can hear here on the Pigments analog one, it has a little bit of that noise. But you see how the highs are jumping around from aliasing? You don't get that as much. Like it's still there, but it's not as detectable with the analog sub because there's a little bit of noise in there. So that's another added benefit. And I find, when I'm working with these waveforms from my hardware synths, it all just sounds great. It's easy, almost no latency, almost no processor use. I'm just using stock Ableton devices and I can get any sound that I want. And then if during mixdown I decide maybe I could do a better version of that sound with another synth, I might resynthesize that sound at the end. But while I'm writing, I like my computer to be operating quickly. I don't want to overthink the steps that I'm making. And by using this 128 hardware oscillators, I get to have all of my hardware synths at my fingertips wherever I am. So if you are curious about this, this instrument is available as part of the weekly download at theweeklydownload.com. There's 270 other weekly downloads in there. It's only $5 a week. And if you want to know more about sound design, come to my sound design workshop. You can check it out at the link below. Lots of love and thanks for watching. Peace.